Good morning, everyone. I'm out here in the silvo pasture, one of our little silvo pasture projects that we've been working on out here. Just wanted to do a little short video kind of talking about some of our thoughts on it so far, some of the progress. You guys have seen a couple of YouTube shorts on it. I had one that I posted where I was actually seeding this grass, and you can see now where it's coming in. I was standing over in there somewhere, and you can see where I was planting that. It's actually coming out very, very well. I had several comments. People were kind of talking negative about it, talking about how it wasn't going to come back, or and all like that. And ryegrass will come back. I've had success with it coming back multiple years in a row. That doesn't mean, it is an annual plant. That doesn't mean that it's always going to happen. But so far, I've had 100% success. Maybe that won't happen forever. But you know what? You buy one bag of seed, and you get years and years and years and years and years of success. It's pretty well worth it to me. But anyway, so what we did was we tossed the seed out here. So what we will do now is when the cows come in to graze, we'll never let them in this area. We're going to actually fence it out with some hot wire to keep them out of this spot until after the ryegrass comes to seed. So we want the ryegrass to actually come to seed really hard. I do that in a place where I've never had any ryegrass. I'll let it fully mature and let it head completely out, and then I'll bring the cows in there. They don't eat much, they trample most of it, and sometimes I'll get it to come back and reseed once or twice again. And then when it does the final time, you're actually laying down tons of carbon because they hardly eat any of it. Way more carbon. You can get way more carbon out of this than you actually can out of these trees. So when you combine that together, you're sequestering tons and tons of carbon this way. That's why you absolutely have to have cattle for a good carbon regeneration of everything, to actually pull it from the atmosphere and get it back into our soils where we need it. You've got to have cattle. Unfortunately, excuse me. Unfortunately for some people, that does mean that a vegan approach for the entire planet is just not going to work for those types of things. But there is a lot of good hope there. A lot of good hope for a lot of people that are concerned with those things. For a lot of us, for farmers, the reason why that's such a big deal is knowing how much carbon we can actually pump back into our own soil and make our soils a lot better, a lot more fertile, and just much better soil overall. It also helps us to start getting more nutrients in our food, because our foods are just so nutrient depleted right now. So because our soils are, because there's no carbon in there, there's just no real life to help us to absorb, or to help those plants to absorb all of that nutrients. And that's another reason why eating animals is so important for us, is because we need that in order to break down the nutrients that is in the grass, to break it down and make it even more absorbable for us. But not to jump on that bandwagon. I don't want anybody thinking that I'm against vegans or veganism. That's not it at all. My goal is to be regenerative and find the best way to create super healthy food and to rebuild the soil. So that's all I'm about. I'm not trying to be against anybody in any way. I apologize if that's the way it sounds, okay? But this area is turning out very, very good. Some of my plans for this area is to actually plant different types of trees in here. So I'll slowly take away trees and add trees. So what I'll actually do is I'll add the tree first that I want, and then as it starts to mature, then I'll cut out another tree in its place. And I'm not saying that you have to do that in every area. Some areas it would be better just to go ahead and cut it all out and regrow your entire area. Replace it with new trees. But this area is it's not technically a riparian zone, because this is not a creek. Okay, this is actually runoff from a pond. It's runoff. I know exactly where the pond is. You know what I mean? So it's technically not a creek, but I am considering it a riparian zone because sometimes, when that pond really starts to flood over, it does get high enough that it will wash down through this whole area. So it really helps to hold this soil in, and it also helps this soil to be really good. It's a prime spot, So I don't want all of this to get washed out, okay? That's why I don't want to cut all of these trees down. It's really necessary to have this here, okay? So my plan is to put really good fruit trees and nut trees in this area, replace them You know, so we've got some oaks in here, and we've got some multiple trash trees. You know, we've got several different type of trees. We've got some holly trees in here. We've got just different types of trees. This was an old maple. I did an experiment. For anybody that saw that older video in this area, this was an experiment that I did, and it actually failed on me. This is where I took a maple tree, and they call it to coppice the tree. So I actually coppiced the tree. I cut it off right here. I made sure it was a good smooth cut, so there wasn't any chance for anything to get in there. Okay, and I cut it off with hopes that it would start to bush out up top, and that it would actually be food for sheep and things like that, but yet still be tall enough, because I've had really good success with cutting the stump off and then it grow out, and it's good food for different types of smaller livestock like sheep and goats and things. But I wanted to see what would happen if you cut it off even taller, to where it was tall enough to where the animal could never reach all the way up and totally nuke the tree. Instead, they could just get really good food from it, but never completely kill the tree. Okay, so that was kind of the goal. That was my thinking. It completely failed. The tree did die. I don't know 100% why. You know, I'm not sure what it is, because if I would have done it as a stump, it would have worked. A couple of my theories is one, there just wasn't enough sunlight in here to support it, so cutting it completely off just took it away, and made it just not work at all. I mean, there's a couple different theories. I don't really know. It is possible the stump's still alive. I don't know. Maybe if I would have actually put in some other branches, like actually put them into there and allowed them to grow off, maybe it would have gone ahead and done it. Maybe being in such a shady spot, it just didn't have enough. And it could be the time of year I did it. It wasn't the best time. The best time of year to have done it would have actually been in the dead of winter. Okay, and it wasn't that. I think it was early spring like it is now, which is not the best time. So it could be. But anyway, so I just wanted to throw that update out there. It was a flop for me. It didn't work out. We do like to try to do little experiments. I will experiment more in the future and see. But I wanted to experiment with that one specifically because I was going to take that one out anyway. So I wanted to try it out. Okay. So this area is going to turn out to be a nice area. I think it's just below. I'm going to walk out here and show y'all. It's just below our deer orchard. Okay. We've got a couple videos showing you that. And that's why this is going to be so nice, because we're going to have our little orchard up here, but then also this is going to be like a civil pasture orchard grove, if you will. It's going to be a nice little spot that's really going to help out bringing the deer and wildlife to our property. So when you bring wildlife, anytime you bring any species to your farm or to any place, any species helps support 8 more species. Okay, so then that new 8 species helps support another 8 species throughout each species. So when you bring on more and more species on your farm, you know, a lot of people are against that. A lot of farmers are against that. But we actually, in regenerative farming, we actually support that. Okay, because it can be really good. There's a lot of other good benefits. There are some negatives to having other types of animals on your farm, but I personally see the benefits to far outweigh the negative sides of it, especially here on my homestead portion of our farm, because it really helps to make things. It just brings more potential food on your place, for one thing. You're putting in multiple different types of fruit and things like that, and then occasionally you can harvest deer, and then you've got food to put in your freezer. Okay, so that's one really good thing. But it's beyond that too. You know, you're bringing in different types of browser animals that actually can help bring, if you get one type of animal on one place, you get a huge parasite load. But a lot of times when you diversify the amount of animals on your place, even if it's through wild animals, you know, that kind of thing can actually really help with the parasite load. You know, there's a lot of different reasons why, but it can really help with those things. So we welcome stuff like that on our farm. Okay, so the goal here will not necessarily be to take out every tree. Like I kind of like this one right here. It's a larger one. I'll probably leave it. And I could leave some of these white oaks, you know, but I probably will eventually take them out. I don't know. I may let them become more of a timber size. But that one right there is actually growing together, which is not a good thing anyway. So most likely I'll cut it out and turn the majority of that tree into a mushroom tree. That's actually going to make a great mushroom tree. So most likely that's what I'll do at just a perfect ideal time. Get that out, replace it with another tree because it is providing a pretty good bit of shade in here. But my thought is quite a few different wild persimmons, okay? But I also want to do maybe a Mayhaw tree. I'm thinking a Mayhaw tree is going to be a little bit too short. If I do, the Mayhaw will be somewhere across the edge. But what I'm thinking more or less is kind of in the edge to help block some of that southern sun, so you kind of keep this shaded area somewhat, is actually going to be maybe a couple fig trees, things like that across the edge there. And to help hold that creek together, that's actually coming from another pond up that way, okay? That's one reason why this creek stays so full. There's 2 different ponds, sometimes 3 ponds that actually feed this, and they're all spring fed. But anyway, so it's going to be, I think it's going to be really nice. I'm actually pretty excited about it. So that's persimmons, maybe a type of nut tree. I'm not sure what just yet, because a lot of your nut trees end up being really big, and I don't want anything huge in this area. So I'm not sure yet. There is another type of tree, it's on the tip of my tongue, pawpaws. I'm really thinking about putting pawpaws down here, a couple of pawpaw trees. Pawpaw trees, if you don't know what that is, it's kind of an old, you heard a lot of it in old southern, older southern places and stuff talked about it, but it's actually native across quite a bit of North America, okay? But it's a really hardy tree. It's actually, now a lot of people don't realize it's hardy because they'll buy it and then it will die on them. And that's because it's a tree that hasn't really been changed or altered in any way. So a lot of our trees, like apples and peaches and things, have actually been altered. And in order to fit our lifestyle, or in order to fit an orchard or something like that better. But pawpaw trees have barely been altered. Actually, I don't think they've been altered at all. So they're still, you need to plant them in their native, exactly the way they want to be planted, okay? And this is actually a perfect area for a pawpaw tree, okay? Pawpaw trees like to be shaded. They like shaded sunlight, so just like passive shade in the first couple of years of their life. And then over time, then they want to actually be able to, then they want lots of sun. So it actually works perfect for an area like this, because as they grow, it's passive shade, and then once they get bigger, they push through that canopy, and then at that point, they can start to get all of the sun they need. Because once they start to fruit, they do need sun in order to get the carbohydrates for their fruit, okay? But because of that, they've got to have that passive shade. So these areas are actually going to be really awesome for that, for putting some pawpaw trees. So I really think that's what we're going to do. We're going to put some pawpaw trees out here. Another thing about pawpaws is they like to be in lower areas. They actually really like to be around creeks and things. That's kind of where people would actually find them. The Native Americans actually ate quite a few pawpaws. From my understanding, that they ate quite a few of those. And they would find those pawpaws along creek bottoms and things like that. And those trees would actually help hold the creeks together while actually providing food for lots of different things. And what's nice about that is you're providing a carbohydrate for an animal, which can help to put on fat on the animal. It's not a protein. You got to have protein to build muscle and to build mass, but carbohydrates and fat can actually help to build some more of the fat content. So it's really good. I mean, you're just adding another food source for cattle, but also for pigs and everything else, And I know a lot of you guys are going to say, man, you're doing so much stuff, you're going to invite wild hogs on your place. Yes, I do realize that is a possibility, but here's the thing. We already get wild hogs, okay? So I'm going to take the good with the bad. And you know what? Some of the worst places for wild hogs in our area is actually really nice hay pastures that people have perfect. I mean, they got them about as perfect as they can get. And guess what? They get more hog damage than I get, okay? It's not to say that I can't get hog damage here, but that's just kind of how it happens. Hogs is just something that comes along. So I hear that argument quite a bit, and I don't know what to tell you. I'm gonna get some trees around here that are productive, because hogs like acorns too, okay? So we're going to try to get trees that are actually productive. That's our goal. Trees that are good for, it still holds the creeks together, it still does these different things, but There's so many trees that we used to have a lot of in our forest, and we just don't have as much of those, near as much as we used to. We used to have really good chestnuts and all like that. The blight did away with that, and they were just never replanted. But you come out here and you can see what we're calling the deer orchard. Okay, we have a full video y'all can watch, kind of talking more about. You can see some of the stuff we've got. We got several videos on this, but it's actually just going to consist of 4 trees here. But this is coming out in here, and then we have a bow stand up there. You can't see it. You can't see it. I've had several people mention that that I keep mentioning a bow stand, but you can't see it, and that's actually what you want. It's hidden intentionally. I mean, I can see it from here, but you might not be able to see it in the video. But I'll probably end up with an actual deer stand sitting up there at some point, but we'll see. But definitely want to have something there. I may move it to the corner, maybe, not sure. But I like the idea of having something here. But this is still part of the cattle pasture. Make no mistake, I'm not planning on fencing this out of the cattle. The cattle are going to be all in here. This is going to be good shade for the cattle while also helping. And it's also food. I mean, they will eat it, okay? But like I've mentioned in the past, this is going to be backup food for us. So we're going to end up with one more tree up this way. They're going to be 3 pears and 1 persimmon. That's a Fuyu persimmon. Multiple different varieties of pears. I'll go over those later. I'm not sure what they are right now. I'd have to go look. But I was going to do 2 persimmons, and I decided, you know what? We're only going to do 1 persimmon this time, because the wild persimmons that we have here are actually going to be all the cross-pollination that this tree needs. Okay, now persimmons don't really require cross-pollination, but with most trees, even if they don't require it, they are going to do, they're going to do better with cross-pollination. But I got to thinking, I was talking to somebody else, and really come to realize that it won't need another cross-pollinator, because I'll have all I need on the property with all of the wild persimmons that I'm going to plant along the creeks and things like that. So there's the other, that's the other pear tree there, and we've got one up there. I won't show you everything. Yeah, got a whole other video on it. But if you look right up there, a little bit farther up is where we're going to plant those. We planted these 30 foot apart. That way we can make sure we got a good place for a brush hog to be able to get all the way around. You know, we try to do regenerative agriculture and stuff, but we still want to make it to where we can use a mechanical advantage from time to time. Sometimes you have to. Okay, so don't let anybody start telling you that you're gonna somehow come up with this magical world where you never have to have a mechanical advantage. I'm not saying that you can't. I'm just saying that it's not necessarily easy to happen overnight. I'll just word it like that. But anyway, I really like this area, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and shut this video down. It's become pretty lengthy. I just wanted to show y'all some of this, show y'all how it's turning out. If y'all have any ideas on some other trees in here that would work really well in this little area, I would love to hear your input on that. Love to see some thoughts. And if I did some taller trees, I'd probably do them on the outside of the creek over here, and that's where I would do something like a chestnut, something like that. Chestnuts are actually excellent for cattle because they provide a lot of energy, and they're actually really good for pigs and stuff too. But they provide a lot of energy just before the winter, and that can really help to put on fat. And cattle need energy in order to stay warm in the wintertime, okay? So a lot of people neglect that with their cattle. They neglect that aspect. But you have to remember that even though the energy, like the fat and carbohydrates, aren't building muscle in your cattle, if they're giving them energy to stay warm throughout the winter, then those things are going to be what helps them not to lose muscle. Okay, so they're still going to be, even if you can't build muscle through the winter, you can at least keep them from losing muscle through the winter. And of course we're talking about on grass, because we don't feed grain to our cattle. But anyway, guys, I'm going to sign off. I just wanted to take y'all out here, show you some of the nice work we've done, kind of show you some of the stuff that we get to do. All right, guys, y'all don't forget, like, subscribe, hit the bell.